little bit ahead today. So wanted to get on here and say hi to everybody that's going to be joining us. You'll notice my office background looks a little bit different. I'm actually in our brand new Oklahoma branch office. So we're excited about that. We're located in Edmond, Oklahoma. So if you're joining us, you can uh, know that we do business in Southwest Washington State. We do business in the Portland, Oregon metro area. And now we do business in the Oklahoma City metro area. So, kind of exciting development. Kind of hard to believe it was actually almost as warm in the Pacific Northwest today as it was here in the great state of Oklahoma. It was 106 here in Edmond today. And my understanding was Portland and Vancouver, the metro area, was about 101. So that's an anomaly for the Northwest, but still kind of interesting that it's equally as warm in both places. So wherever you are watching this, I hope you are staying nice and cool. Well, hey, let's go ahead and get into our seminar for today. It is 4 o'clock, and so I want to make sure and stay true to our word that we keep you for just about 20-25 minutes tops. And we talk about how to sell your house. Now, why do we do this on Zoom? And why do we do this to where people could just kind of drop in and out of this? Well, number one, people are busy, right? And so I'm sure just like you, my schedule can be kind of fluid at times, kind of strange. Things come up. So when we had set seminars and invited people to those, whether in person live or via Eventbrite or something like that, we had a very low turnout. Since we started doing these on a program called Restream, by the way, we're on YouTube, we're on Facebook, we're on LinkedIn right now. We've actually had a tremendous response in getting anywhere from 125 to almost 200 people a week that are being reached by these seminars. So that's kind of an exciting thing. So anyway, that's kind of why we do these the way we do them, is because you're busy. If you want to go back and look at this at a future time, check out my timeline on Facebook. You can go to our YouTube channel, Tanner Realty Group. You can go to our Facebook page for Tanner Realty Group, or you can find it on my LinkedIn profile at my Tanner. So you can go back and check those out anytime you want to. But let's talk about how to sell your house in today's market. Okay. Everybody knows that the Fed has just raised interest rates a little while ago, and early this next week, they're already saying that they're probably going to be raising them again. And the news that's kind of leaked out that I'm seeing is about 3/4 of a point that they're going to be actually raising those. So if you're going to watch us on the replay on Thursday night, we'll know by that time. And the real interesting part is always the day after they do these announcements, because typically they'll hint at another one yet again if they're going to do it. So we want to make sure and watch that day after news really carefully as well. But it's impacted our markets all across the country. Here in Oklahoma, in the Pacific Northwest, it's impacted our markets. Days on market have gone up significantly. Price increases has slowed. Now, does that mean that people are losing money on their house? Absolutely not. It does not mean that. But what it does mean is that sellers are not able to kind of put whatever price they want to on their house now and hope for the best. Because about a year ago, they would have gotten it. It may have taken a little bit, but they would have gotten it. Now, we're not going to get that. As a matter of fact, we're seeing some of those more unique properties sit for a little while longer. We're seeing, like I said, more days on market. But if you've been in your house for, your normal place that you live, your primary residence, if you've been in there for a number of years, you've done well. As long as you haven't tapped that equity, you're still going to do well on your home sale. So let's talk about how to sell your house in today's market. The 9.5 things that you really, truly need to understand and you need to know in order to sell your home. First of all, and I touched on this a little bit, pricing. We use a tool called the Total Market Overview Report. And what that does is that gives us a snapshot of the last 6 months. And that's important because we want to make sure and get that pricing right. We look at 3 different things on that. We look at the actives on markets. We look at the pendings, or the ones that are under contract that haven't closed yet. We don't know that final number, but we at least know what went under contract at that price. And the most important one is we know the solds. So when that happens, we're able to look back at that 6-month snapshot and say, and kind of zero in that pricing a little bit and get a real clear picture for what your house will sell for. Now, in today's market, there's a little bit of a caveat there. Yes, we still use that total market overview report. However, we also look at day of comps. We look at 2 to 3 weeks now, real carefully in all the categories that we do the total market overview report, because the real estate market is changing so fast right now. Compared to stocks, real estate typically changes a lot slower. Well, we're not seeing that right now. Real estate is changing on almost a daily basis. So you need to make sure your agent is really tuned in to what's going on in the market and those changes that are coming up extremely quickly. Pricing is key. Pricing, believe it or not, is actually one of your top marketing tools for your house. It actually gets people's attention. If you want to sell your house for $410,000, I'm going to encourage you to put it on for $399,000. If you want to sell it for $1.1 million, I'm going to encourage you to put it on for $999,000. Here's why. When people go online on our own website at tannerrealtygroup.com, they don't look for $1.1 million. They don't look for $410,000. They look in blocks of $50,000 chunks. That's what they look for. In the upper end, they may look in $500,000 block chunks. So you want to be real careful about how you price it. And there's a little bit of gamesmanship involved there too. So just make sure that that house is priced to where it's going to get a lot of good attention. And most people don't view pricing as a marketing tool. We do. The second thing you need to know in selling your house is the transaction timeline. It's not just, hey, sticking a post in your front yard and going for it. It's actually knowing the entire process from start to finish. It starts with the listing contract, of actually a contract between you and the agent, myself, or one of our other team members, who goes through that contract with you and explains line by line. But once your house gets up on the market, we take the photos, we do all the drone shots, all the things we're going to talk about here in a little bit. We get that house on market and it goes under contract. Now, it's taken a few more days, but we're able to get it under contract. What happens then? Well, the first checkpoint, the transaction checkpoint, is really when the buyer turns in the earnest money. After the contract is signed around, both the seller and buyer have agreed to all the terms up front. The first transaction checkpoint is the earnest money. That's turned into the title company, wired into the title company. Typically, I say typically because this is different in every area, it's about 1% of the purchase price. Now, if you want to show that seller how serious you are as a buyer, and seller, if you're looking for a real serious offer, take a look at the percentage of that earnest money. Because if it's at 4, 5, 10% earnest money, you know that these people are not messing around and they really want this house. So that's kind of a good lead indicator of just how serious they are about getting the house that you are selling. That's the first checkpoint, is earnest money. The second checkpoint is roughly at day number 10 of the transaction. Now, I say roughly because states have different ways of doing things. What one state may include calendar days. The other state may include just business days. So it's an estimated rough 10 days for what we call the negotiation for repair deadline. At that point, the buyer should have done all the inspections on the house that they're going to do, unless they ask for an extension. There's another caveat as well. The contract allows for that. But they should have done the whole house inspection, and the repair negotiations should be done by day number 10. If it goes out any longer, the buyer's automatically accepted the house. And so you need to make sure and really watch those transaction timelines. That's checkpoint number 2. 1 is earnest money. 2 is repairs. Now, after the repairs happen, this is where the lender and the title company really take over. So they come into play here, and the appraisal gets done if it's needed. Escrow gathers all the documentation that they need to actually properly close the transaction. So there's a lot of behind the scenes work at this point. This is a point where a lot of clients, especially sellers, maybe can get a little frustrated because it's so behind the scenes. If the agent isn't talking to the seller a lot of times that seller gets a little frustrated. Hey, what's going on? I thought I sold my house. What's going on? And so we like to make sure and do at least a weekly check-in, because that close time from start of contract to closing at the title company, where the deed actually transfers at the county, may be anywhere from 30 to 45 days, sometimes 60 days, depending on what the buyer and the seller negotiate. Most of them we're seeing in the neighborhood of about 30 days. A couple transactions we have under contract right now with Tanner Realty Group actually going about 20, 25 days. So they can move very, very quickly. A couple other things you need to make sure you do when selling your house is get some really, really good still photography. Now, listen, I love my iPhone, okay? This thing's awesome. I love it. It's fantastic. I use it every single day. If I lose it, I probably will freak out more than a 14-year-old girl. However, it is not great for taking professional quality photos of real estate. It's simply not. So you got to make sure that your realtor hires someone who is going to do a great job for you, okay? I've seen a ton of bad MLS photos all over the country. If you want to laugh, go on our Tanner Realty Group Facebook page. You'll see a ton of bad MLS photos. It's kind of a hobby of mine. It's a twisted hobby. I'll allow for that. But it's kind of a hobby of mine to find the funniest ones I can out there. And, that way our potential clients and our clients can kind of get a kick out of them. Secondly, video. You want to make sure and do drone video as well as a walkthrough on the property. This is important because it really gives the buyers out there that are going to see the video, whether on Facebook, YouTube, we do it on TikTok, believe it or not. This is going to give the buyer a truly accurate representation of what your house looks like. That's important because if a videographer uses that stupid fisheye lens to make things way bigger than it actually is, well, buyers can spot that. It's not like buyers are uneducated anymore. They look at thousands of photos online of houses, and you can tell which ones are doctored and which ones are not. So make sure and have an accurate video walkthrough of your house set to some nice music. On the Tanner Realty Group ones, I typically will do the intro, introduce the house. We'll kind of go through the entire thing. And then the listing agent, myself, one of our other agents, will do the outro at the end, highlight some of the things, provide contact information, that thing. And there's some really nice music too going in there as well. It also includes some drone video, which is important because you want to get some really good shots of where that property is located. One of the things we found when we first started doing drone videos is, hey, it's nice to see where the house is in relationship to, say, some parks, some schools. One of the things I didn't anticipate, however, was people were going to be looking at the condition of the roof when we did the drone video. And those are some of the first comments that we got is, man, that roof looks really good. So guess what? Now we do them on just about every single property that we actually do that with. 3D tours. We do 3D tours on a ton of our properties. Some owners don't want it. Some do. Basically, that's a matter of setting up a camera on a tripod. It kind of circles around. It 3D captures the room, and we're able to turn that into a walkthrough that buyers can do. It's simply another tool that buyers can get a more accurate representation and feel for your house. Now, in addition, we take it a step further, and we have a 2D floor plan, just like you would get if you're building a house or the floor plan of a building, right? So we take that and we put that on the listing as well. That came from a friend of mine who said his wife enjoyed looking at those more than the actual 3D tour. So I thought, well, okay, let's see how it worked. And sure enough, it works great because people can figure out their furniture placement. They can figure out a whole variety of things by looking at that 2D floor plan. The next thing you do, and by the way, we're on number 6 if you're keeping track at home, is you need MLS representation. Wherever you are in the country, you need MLS representation. The MLS stands for Multiple Listing Service. This is the place to where all realtors go to upload their listings. This is the place to where all realtors go to look for houses to show to their clients. So if you cut yourself off from MLS representation by not using a realtor, it's kind of a problem for you because a whole host of details are not included in your listing that is basically off market. Now, you can do it for sale by owner, absolutely, but that's not going to communicate to other realtors, buyers agents out there that you're serious about selling your property. It leaves a whole segment of the population and a huge buyer pool out of the loop on your property. And our number one job as realtors, I don't care what anybody else says, our number one job is to get as many eyes on your property as we possibly can and give you the best chance of getting the highest and best amount of money for your property. So don't leave it out of MLS representation. The next thing is digital marketing. I've mentioned this a couple of times already, but digital marketing is huge. In the old days, you used to put it in the paper. You used to put it in one of those magazines that you see at the grocery store. You don't do that anymore. Why? Well, number one, because for the last several years, it's gone by the time you have a chance to get it in that magazine in the grocery store. And then it just becomes an ad for the realtor, which frankly, yes, I know you love and care about me, but you really don't care about that. You want to get your house sold. You're not looking for an ad for Mike or for Tanner Realty Group. You're wanting to get your house sold in the most efficient manner possible for the top dollar. So we put it on digital marketing, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube. Those are kind of our top four right now. And we've also dived into TikTok. No, you will not see me dancing on TikTok, so please don't ask. Just kidding. I've only had a few people who have done that. But we put it out there and we actually advertise. We pay to advertise your property out there because we want to make sure and get as many eyes on it as possible. Are you hearing a theme here? The overarching theme is getting eyes on your property for the best representation and the best chance of getting sold possible. Digital marketing is huge. Now, a lot of realtors will say that they use it, and that's great, but they repost it to their family and friends. That is a problem. Here's why. If I don't pay to put that out there, like the majority of the realtors don't pay to put it out on social media, you know who's going to see your property? My family and friends, and that's it. Now, I got quite a few of them on there, but I'm not that popular of a guy, okay? And the fact is, my mom is about the only one who likes all of my stuff on Facebook and Instagram, primarily on Facebook, and that's okay. And I love mom for doing that. That's great. But guess what? My mom is not going to buy your house, okay? She's quite comfortable where she and dad are right now. They're not going to buy your house. So why would I just market it to the people that I know? That doesn't make sense. You want to get it out there as far and as wide as possible. So we target geographically. We actually use some third-party information and find out where people are moving to from outside the area. And so we market to that. So say, for example, we type in Beaverton, Oregon in there, and we have the top 3 places that people are moving in from Beaverton, Oregon. Now, I can tell you off the top of my head, it's Los Angeles, it's the Bay Area, and it's Seattle, okay? Because I've looked into those numbers. So guess where we market your listing? We don't just market it in Beaverton, Oregon. We market it in Seattle. We market it in Los Angeles, and we also market it in the Bay Area. Now, currently, right now, as I told you earlier, I'm sitting in our Oklahoma branch office for Tanner Realty Group. Guess what? We look at where people are moving from to Edmond, Oklahoma. And we do the exact same thing. We can do this all over the country. But thanks to all the data mining out there, we've got all of this info at our fingertips, and it's awesome. So digital marketing is huge, and placement of that digital marketing and paying for that digital marketing is even bigger, because a lot of wannabe marketers will just throw it up there to whoever, and they may be advertising to somebody in New York that has no intention of moving to the Midwest or no intention of moving to the Northwest. So you got to be careful with who you hire. We know what we're doing with marketing. So that's yet another huge reason why you should hire us. Next, you want some transaction coordination. All of those timelines that I mentioned earlier are kind of tough to keep track of, particularly when you may have realtors working in different states like we are. We have a transaction coordination team that takes care of all of our contracts from contract to closing and maps out a timeline right up front. So not only do you know what the timeline is, I know what the timeline is, the other agent knows what the timeline is, and the other party knows what the timeline is. So if you're selling your house and you have a buyer's agent that's not educating their buyer very well, we do it for them. We want to make sure that that buyer knows exactly what's going on and what their deadlines are in that transaction so they don't default on the transaction and get out of contract. It creates a whole mess when you do that. So we want to make sure that everybody knows those timelines right up front so they know what's going on. Now, what turns off potential buyers? I'll tell you, anything overly personal. In today's day and age, anything political is going to completely eliminate half of your buying pool. If you have something that is overly conservative in your house, you're going to eliminate half of your buying pool. If you have something that is overly liberal or leftist in your house, you are going to automatically eliminate half of your buying pool. As we look throughout the country, our country is very divided right now, and that's a very unfortunate thing. And I don't celebrate that at all. I don't like the division going on in our country. However, we need to make sure my job is not to get into politics, okay? It's not. Believe me, I do not want to get into politics. I would be horrible at it. I'd tick off everybody. I'm a libertarian. I'd make them all mad. But we want to make sure that that whoever wants your house gets it. And you want them to pay you what you're asking for it. So why in the world would you have a polarizing sign in your front yard that's going to scare off half of your buying pool? It doesn't make sense. So make sure and keep everything as neutral as possible. It's kind of like saying, hey, you know what? I'm going to paint my walls neon pink and hope that people like them. Doesn't happen. So make it everything as neutral as possible in your house to give you the best chance possible to sell that thing. Now, I promised you 9.5 things in the title of this meeting. So here's the deal. Here's the half. It's the one thing that you absolutely have to do in order to sell your house. The one thing. If you've heard nothing else from everything I've said today, remember this one thing, because if you do this, this will give you the best possible chance of getting your house sold in a timely manner. Are you ready? Deep cleaning. A clean house, a deeply cleaned house will sell faster and better in a smoother transaction than just about anything else. Here's why I say that. You've probably heard the old story about, oh, in an open house, you want the scent of fresh baked cookies. Not anymore. Hey, I found out a few years ago I'm allergic to wheat. That sucks. If I walk into there, I'm thinking I'm going to have a gluten allergy attack. That's terrible. I don't want that. Now, I wish I could still have those cookies. So at first, it's going to make me mad I can't have the cookies. And second of all, I might be allergic to them. Kind of crazy, kind of stupid, and I know that, but you want to make sure that, again, you make it as neutral as possible. You know what I want to smell when I walk into a house? Pine Sol. I want to smell old school Pine Sol. I want to be not overwhelmed, but I want to smell that cleaner really evidently when I walk into a house, because I know that that owner has taken steps to make that house clean. And you can tell when something just is covering up the smell or when it actually smells clean. You can tell that. Make those bathrooms sparkle. Make those kitchen counters sparkle and have that scent of cleaner going. That is far and away the most important possible thing you can do in selling your house. Hey, I'm Mike Tanner with Tanner Realty Group. Thank you so much for joining us today. Whether you're joining us live, I've seen a few people pop in and out on this, or whether you're catching the replay on Thursday night. We're glad to have you. We're also doing some buyer seminars as well, and we're going to be doing some lenders that are guest speakers. And we're also doing podcasts live as well now too. So catch any of that. Take us for as much information as you possibly need from us. Reach out with questions. Reach out if you think I say something wrong. Say, hey, I'm not really sure about that. What do you mean? Ask me. I'm an open book with this kind of stuff. Thanks again so much for joining us, and we'll talk with you soon. Have a great day.